Hello, you're welcome. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how you can round your number to a multiple of another number, or to use a specified significant figure to round your number. So we're going to be starting with the round function. As the round function, the round up function, and the round down function. So in order to be able to round your number to a multiple of 10, you use the round and then a -1 to the multiple of 100, you use a -2, multiple of 1000, you use a -3, and so on. So we are going to be using this product and sales data, and I'm going to start with the round. Already I have a video where I spoke and demonstrated how we use these functions, the round, the roundup, and so many other functions that we use for this kind of analysis, okay, rounding of numbers. And here I will just enter the number, which is the sales, and then the number of digits I will use will be -1. And this is for me to be able to have my number returned as a multiple of 10 when rounded. So you can see that this number is returned rounded to the multiple of 10. So I can copy this down, and that is exactly what I have here. And you can see even the negative number also takes in that. So when I do using -2, so this will be the multiple of 100, okay, as we can see here. So this is now a multiple of 100. So for our round up, you remember what we said about the round up, but let's just recap. So it rounds a number up away from 0, okay? So as this is rounding to a multiple of 10, it's going to round away from 0, okay? So we select and then -1. So, and you can see here, away from 0. So like this negative value, when it rounds away from 0, you are now seeing that it is now 1240 to the negative value, unlike what we have here, 1230, okay, to the negative value. That's because it's taking it away from 0. Now let's do for round down, which so let's first see what it does. So it rounds a number down towards 0, okay? So the positive values will be rounded down towards 0, and the negative values will also be rounded down towards 0. So let's select this, and then our multiple now is 10, okay? And you can see that unlike where we have round, that we were having a 60, here we're having a 50 because it rounds down, okay? It rounds it down towards 0. And for this one, it still rounds it down towards 0. Now let's go to significant figures. So for significant figures, we are going to be using a function that will involve us to use this kind of formula where we have our significant number based on the significant number that we want, and then we minus the length, which we start with the main cell here, take the absolute value, that's the value that we have inside the cell, then truncate it based on the function that we saw the last time, which now returns the truncated value, then the length that we now get, we subtract from the significant number that we want to be able to round to the significant figure. So we are going to see how this works. So I have an empty column here for the revenue. So I have to look for a revenue. So let me just select this. Let me copy this and then paste as my revenue here. So now I want to round to two significant figures. So to do this, I will be using my round function. Then the number is this. And then here where I have the number of digits is where we use this. So the first thing I have here is the significant number. So I'm rounding to two significant figures. So I have 2 here. Then I subtract. Okay, then I use the length function. And then inside the length function now, we'll be using truncate function. Then selecting instead of selecting this number, I will take the absolute function as well. Okay. And this is where I now select the number, which is this. And then I close until I have everything closed. Okay, then I enter. So you can see to two significant figures now using this very function. This formula, I have now rounded to two significant figures. Now, if I want to round to 3 significant figures, I can just copy this. And then here we have round. I'll change this to B. Okay, so that it refers to this B. And this is also the P. Okay. And remember, we are now rounding to 3 significant figures. So we change this to 3. So you can see when we round to 3 significant figures, this is what we get while using this kind of formula as well. So the significant number, which is 3, and then length, and then we use this truncate, an absolute value, and enter this. Now let's go to MROUND function. So for the MROUND function, we get a multiple. Okay, so we use that multiple to round our number to the nearest multiple. So let me just copy this multiple because I don't have any multiple here. So I'll be rounding my numbers to multiple 5, and this one to multiple 20. So what I will just do is use the round function, MROUND function. So you can see what it does here. It returns a number rounded to the desired multiple. So the number that I want to round is this, okay? And I want to round it to the nearest multiple of 5. So you can see the nearest multiple of 5 for this very one now is 23,455, and that's what is returned here. So for this one now, since it's a negative value, we enter a negative here, okay? A minus sign here. So you can see now we have been able to also round this one to the multiple of 5, okay? And this one is to the multiple of 20, as we can see here. So the nearest multiple of 20 for this 12,349 is 12,340, okay? Now, for our CEILING.MATH, we use this to round to multiples as well, just like this floor. But in the case of this ceiling and this floor, we remember what we said about the ceiling function. If you haven't seen the video I made on this kind of functions, you can check it out, okay, from this very playlist. So for this ceiling function, let's recap by seeing what it does. So it rounds a number to the nearest integer, okay, or the nearest multiple of significance, and it does this rounding it up, okay, so it rounds up. So when it rounds a positive number, it goes further from 0, okay, and a negative number comes closer to 0. So that's just. Now let's get the ceiling function. Then the number is this, and we want to round to the significance, okay, the significance 5, which is the multiple. So you can see what goes on here. So this one takes it closer to, takes it further away from 0. I mean, that is when we have a positive number, okay? And then for this very negative number, you can see that instead of having a 5, it brings us to a 0, okay? And then for this 20, multiple of 20, it takes us all the way to 500, okay? Because this is ceiling. It takes us further away from 0. Now let's do for floor. So for floor, the number is this, and the multiple of 5. So you will see the difference now between the floor and the ceiling. So you can see for floor, it's bringing us closer to 0, okay? Closer to 0. Then here you are also seeing for the negative value, it is now giving us a 2, 3, unlike what we have here, a 2, 3, 0, okay? So it takes us closer to 0. That's for floor. Okay, then for the negative value, it's still the same approach. Then the last thing that we're going to be looking at is this even and odd. So it gives us the closest even number or the closest odd number, depending on the function that we choose. So if I choose the even function for this 2.3, it brings us to the closest even number for this 2.3, which is 4. Okay, and it does so even for the negative values. So it brings us to the closest even number. Now for the odd, it takes us to the closest odd number. That's what the odd function does. So you can see for 2.3, the closest odd number is 3. 7.1, the closest odd number is 9. And that's just what this function does. It helps us approximate to the nearest odd or even number. You can see floor taking us further away from, taking us closer to 0, taking us closer to 0, while ceiling takes us further away from 0. MROUND, it rounds to the nearest multiple. Significant figures, we use this very formula to round to the specific significant figure that we want. And then finally, the round function to get the multiple of 10 and the multiple of 100 using -1 and -2 respectively. I hope you've been able to find this video helpful. Please, if you have, kindly like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.